religious communities. Third one over here is Rousseau, and he is considered the most revolutionary philosopher of 18th century. He gave a social contract theory. He says that man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains. And he says that the theory social contract goes by that I will have a duty towards the state. It's a two-way process, right? If there is a state and if there is a citizen, now the citizen has a duty to the state, and the state is going to provide certain rights and privileges to the citizen. So government, it derives legitimacy only from the consent of the governed. And who are governed? They are the citizens, right? It is the collective general will of the citizens that gives authority to the government. Is it clear? Now, he advocated this idea of general will. Apart from this, we have seen the idea of popular sovereignty over here. Now, let's very quickly see what is the impact of enlightenment, that these philosophers, they introduced critical thinking, satire, reason in the public discourse. They exposed inequality, superstition and arbitrary rule. They inspired, now this is important, they inspired the third estate, which were your urban and rural classes, such as lawyers, such as traders, right, such as the peasants, who demanded their rights, who talked about justice and participation in the governance. Now, also, recently, what happened in US had impacted these people. Okay, the courage and the struggle of the 13 American colonies against the British rule had inspired these people, right? First of all, inspiration for liberty and courage. Okay? The bravery of the American colonies had encouraged even the French masses to stand against such oppression. And we have seen French soldiers such as Marquis de Lafayette, who fought alongside the Americans, okay, brought back the revolutionary spirit and democratic ideals to France. You saw when we were discussing American Revolution that it was these colonies or colonists, all of a sudden they get the help from French army, right? Second thing, spread of the revolutionary ideas, right? Now, with happening of American Revolution, the principles of liberty, equality, fraternity, and pursuit of happiness, which later became the core values of French Revolution, strengthened further. It proved that monarchy could be successfully challenged by the common man under a united, just cause. This is what they learned from American Revolution. Third thing over here is that the American example, okay, it emphasized that government must be limited by a written constitution, right? Now understand this. This written constitution, which I have already mentioned the term limitation on the power of the government, is constitutionalism. Now, constitutionalism is, or the constitution is the law of the land. Nothing is superior than the constitutional morality, right? And it also showed that sovereignty should rest with the people and not with some hereditary monarch, right? Apart from this, the success of Americans, it injected the political awareness among the French intellectuals, and the third estate, it realized that a revolution was possible if a system based on a revolution was possible and the monarchy could be removed and a system based on representation and consent. Now this is coming up of, you see, republic. We will see how with lots of stages ultimately France becomes a republic, that this is possible. Four major causes, okay, four major causes are these clear, right? Now understand, I have just discussed in the social cause that ultimately Louis XVI, he calls upon the meeting of the Estates General. I left the point over there. So what happens that during this meeting, right, the third estate was not allowed to enter the gate of Palace of Versailles. Let's see here what happened, that by August 1786, the French treasury, it was absolutely bankrupt and Louis XVI had to summon the Estate General at the Palace of Versailles on 5th May 1789 because he wanted to seek approval for imposing the new taxes. And also these Estate Generals, they had three chambers, right? The first one over here was clergy, he was there. Nobility, even he was there. Commoner, third one, he was not there, right? And with one vote each one of these people had vote, making the third estate totally irrelevant, because if they can one vote. Ultimately, if clergy and the noble are voting in favor of taxation, then if the commoner is not even voting or he's against the taxation which the government was planning to put on, yet the bill could have been ultimately passed, right? Now what happens? These third estate people, okay, or the majority population, which consisted of approximately 97% of the population, right? These third estate, they were the common man, you can say peasants, workers, right? They demanded a joint setting of all the three estates and one vote per member instead of one vote per estate. Now you understand why. 97% of the population and they get to decide by one vote, right? Understand this. First estate, it is having one vote. Second estate, again it is having one vote. And third estate, even it is having one vote. If these both, right, if they go in the favor of taxing, then even if they defy, will they be able to win it? No. But how the tax ratio, how the vote ratio has been done, this third estate was not justified. It said that for one vote should be for per member. Now they were 97% of the population, they were just 1.5% of the population, right? And they were 0.5% of the population. Definitely if one vote goes for each member, then they are going to win. So as expected, what happens? The first and the second estate, they totally deny their assent to this proposal and it results in a impasse. Nothing happens. And when their demands were rejected, now these people, common man of third estate, were so infuriated that themselves, the third estate declared itself as a national assembly. Okay, this is the first major significant turning point in your French Revolution. They declare themselves as a national assembly, okay, on 17th June 1789, representing the will of French people. Now, this will of French people, it means the consent, right? And where did we study the word consent? We saw it in popular sovereignty of Rousseau, right? So these people, they came together and in the National Assembly, they declared themselves as a National Assembly.